Hello, I'm Johnny, and today's topic is, will Luka Doncic leave the team? Mark Cuban's response is quite intriguing. The Clippers swept the Lakers this season, and Westbrook has staged a prince's revenge.
No vest.
First, let's look at the news. Warriors head coach Steve Kerr said in an interview that Andrew Wiggins will not play in the last 2 games of the regular season. In short, he has missed too many games and needs some time to adjust. From the Warriors' perspective, the best outcome is not to play in the play-in tournament, so Andrew Wiggins can have more time to train. However, if the Warriors need to play in the play-in, then Andrew Wiggins, even at only 70% condition, has to play, as he is one of the most important players on the front line. Before discussing whether Luka Doncic will leave the team, please give our video a like. Your encouragement is our motivation to create more content. Thank you. Now, let's focus on the Mavericks. Whether it's live broadcasts or Q&A sessions, many fans ask if Luka Doncic will leave the Mavericks. Today, the owner, Mark Cuban, gave an answer. He believes Luka Doncic would want to play for the Mavericks for his entire career. However, the team must win a championship. This response is quite interesting. In other words, if they don't win a championship, he will leave, right? So my interpretation is that Mark Cuban thinks Luka Doncic might leave. The difference now is whether the team can win a championship before he wants to leave, which would allow them to keep him. In my opinion, excluding this season, whether the Mavericks can win a championship in the next 3 years is crucial, especially the 25-26 season. Luka Doncic, who is currently 24, will be around 27 years old at that time, entering the so-called peak of his career. More importantly, the last year of his current contract is the 26-27 season. So, I personally think that whether the Mavericks can win a championship in the next 3 years will determine if Luka Doncic will still be wearing the Mavericks jersey. Additionally, Mark Cuban also stated that the team would do their best to keep Kyrie Irving during the offseason, which is not surprising. If they don't keep him, it would mean that the mid-season trade was a huge failure since they have already let Spencer Dinwiddie go. If they don't keep Kyrie Irving, it would leave Luka Doncic as the only stable ball handler on the court. Since Mark Cuban believes that winning a championship is necessary to keep Luka Doncic, it makes sense to retain the offensively talented Kyrie Irving. However, when asked if the team would do their best to keep Christian Wood, Mark Cuban did not respond, which is something for fans to consider. Now, let's get back to the game. Since we're talking about the Mavericks, let's focus on the Kings versus Mavericks. The Mavericks still have a chance to enter the play-in tournament, so they must win this game. Although the Kings have already secured a playoff spot, their main players still played. In this game, Domantas Sabonis had another triple-double, which should secure his spot in the All-NBA third team this season. Alright, let's talk about the Battle of Los Angeles, a game that has undoubtedly attracted a lot of attention from fans. Whether you want to see Westbrook seeking revenge or the Lakers climbing to the 5th spot in the Western Conference, this game is worth keeping an eye on. Speaking of Westbrook, he scored 2 3-pointers in the first quarter, with defenders playing back on both shots. However, Westbrook managed to seize these opportunities. Additionally, he pulled off a step-back jumper in front of LeBron James, LBJ, towards the end of the second quarter, helping the team lead 71-52 by halftime with a 19-point advantage. Lakers fans must remember how they couldn't secure their 10-point lead in the final moments of the fourth quarter against the Jazz yesterday. The game went into overtime, and it was only with a fully charged LeBron that they managed to win. LBJ scored only 3 points in the first half, with a plus-minus of -25. With Davis, AD, hitting 3 3-pointers towards the end of the second quarter, it's no wonder the Lakers were trailing by so much. The Lakers aren't the only team in the league playing back-to-back games, so they can only blame themselves for not finishing the game in the fourth quarter yesterday. Talking about LeBron, he came back to life in the third quarter, scoring 10 points in a row, including a long-range 3-pointer. Coupled with AD's mid-range shot, the Lakers managed to close the gap to just 7 points. At the end of the third quarter, the Clippers led 93-82, with an 11-point advantage. However, in the early part of the fourth quarter, Clippers newcomer Bones Hyland scored back-to-back 3-pointers, widening the lead. Although the Lakers didn't give up, AD and LBJ fought until the final 30 seconds before resting. In the end, the Lakers lost this crucial battle 118-125. With this victory, the Clippers now have a 42-38 record, ranking 5th in the Western Conference. As mentioned earlier, the Pelicans have a head-to-head advantage over the Clippers this season, making this victory crucial for the Clippers. The Lakers and the Pelicans both have a 41-39 record, but the Lakers hold a 3-1 advantage over the Pelicans, so they currently rank 7th, while the Pelicans are 8th. In reality, the Lakers have a 3-1 advantage over the Warriors this season, so they still have a chance at the 6th spot. However, they must win their next 2 games to secure that position. Talking about this game, LBJ scored 30 points in the second half, doing his part for the team. The Lakers' loss can be attributed to a lack of scoring options, as they relied heavily on their starters. Rui Hachimura struggled this game, and scoring isn't Wenyen Gabriel's strong suit. Additionally, Dennis Schroeder only scored 2 points, contributing to the Lakers' loss. On the Clippers' side, Westbrook only played for 21 minutes, but the bench had Norman Powell with 27 points and Bones Highland with 14 points. Terrence Mann also contributed 10 points, and Kawhi Leonard scored 25 points, giving the Clippers more scoring options than the Lakers. Furthermore, the Clippers always had a big man on the court, with Ivica Zubac and Mason Plumlee combining for 21 points and 16 rebounds. When AD was resting, the Lakers' defense struggled. Mo Bamba is currently injured, so when AD is off the court, if Hachimura and Troy Brown Jr. cannot provide more offensive support, the Lakers will have to rely on Austin Reeves, AR, or LBJ. Speaking of AR, he scored 20 points in this game, putting on an excellent performance. It's well known that the Clippers have a deep roster. As long as Paul George can return to the court, the team's roster depth will undoubtedly be among the top in the league. However, the player we need to pay attention to is Kyrie Irving. With both sides tied at 92 after 3 quarters, the Mavericks needed Irving's offensive talents. In the 4th quarter, he scored 19 points by himself, helping the team secure an important victory. Let's look at a few plays. After setting a screen, he deceived his opponent and chose to cut to the left. Facing the defense of a taller player, he performed a step-back three-pointer, a very impressive play. In another possession, he dribbled the ball past half-court and launched an unreasonable deep three-pointer. We should pay attention to Irving's movement from the 45-degree angle to the corner, which showed excellent awareness and made it easier for his teammates to pass the ball. He then executed a catch and shoot, playing beautifully. In fact, Irving's offensive skills are unquestionable, and this is the main reason I personally believe the Mavericks must keep him. After winning the game, the Mavericks' record is now 38 wins and 42 losses. Although they are still ranked 11th in the Western Conference, they are now tied with the Thunder. The Mavericks' final 2 games are against the Bulls and the Spurs. To make the play-in tournament, they need to win both games, as they do not have the head-to-head advantage against the Thunder this season. Next, let's focus on the Grizzlies versus Pelicans. Before the game, the Pelicans' record was 40 wins and 39 losses. Although everyone was paying attention to the Battle of Los Angeles, in reality, if the Pelicans could win this game, the competition for the 6th, 7th, and 8th spots would become more intense, as they had a 3-0 advantage over the Clippers this season. This game went into overtime, and despite the Pelicans leading 124-118 after a Brandon Ingram shot, the Grizzlies' Dillon Brooks hit a three-pointer, and Desmond Bane had 2 free throws. He made the first and intentionally missed the second. At this point, JJJ was fouled, made both free throws, and the game went into overtime. There were several instances of intentional free throw misses this season, such as yesterday's Celtics vs 76ers game with Marcus Smart and Luka Doncic against the Knicks. Not to mention, Donovan Mitchell of the Cavaliers had a similar play. In other words, protecting defensive rebounds is essential. In overtime, it was all about Brandon Ingram's performance. He drew the defense's attention multiple times and then passed the ball to his teammates. Trey Murphy III, Larry Nance Jr., and Herbert Jones all scored smoothly. The Pelicans won 138-131 at home against the Grizzlies, achieving their 41st win of the season. Although the Grizzlies lost, they still held the 2nd spot in the Western Conference. Ja Morant did not play in this game, and JJJ scored a game-high 40 points. He is likely to be selected for the All-NBA 3rd team, as the Grizzlies have a record advantage. He is also a strong candidate for the Defensive Player of the Year. His inside-out playing style makes him one of the most versatile 4-5 players in the league. For the Pelicans, Herbert Jones, Trey Murphy III, and CJ McCollum all scored 30-plus points and made at least 5 three-pointers each. Their performances were key to the team's victory. As for Brandon Ingram, he contributed 13 assists. The Pelicans have returned to their style of play from last season, with the ball primarily in the hands of CJ McCollum and Brandon Ingram, and other players fulfilling their roles. Last season, they made it to the first round of the Western Conference playoffs but were ultimately defeated by the Suns. At this stage, it will be interesting to see how the team finds a balance in ball distribution when Zion Williamson, also known as Fat Tiger, returns. He is currently training, and it's worth noting that this season, he has only played 10 games alongside Brandon Ingram and CJ McCollum. Additionally, there was a play in this game that sparked a lot of discussion. It happened when LBJ drove in and passed the ball to Westbrook. However, LBJ actually thought his teammate, Troy Brown Jr., should have stayed on the baseline instead of cutting. In fact, it was a good opportunity for an outside shot. LBJ was a bit angry about it, but regardless, a loss is a loss, and congratulations to Westbrook for his successful revenge. Finally, let's take a look at the standings. The top 10 teams in the Eastern Conference have already been confirmed. Although the rankings may still change, at least the 10 teams for the playoffs and play-in games have been determined. However, in the Western Conference, besides observing the 5th to 8th positions, it's still unknown which team can catch the last train and enter the play-in games. We probably won't have an answer until the last day of the regular season. Let's see which team will face the Suns in the first round and whether the Mavericks have a chance to catch the last train.